A billionaire's pregnant wife is dying at 37,000 feet. No doctors on board. No way to land. Then a black teenager from the back of the plane says 5 words that change everything. "I can save your baby." The billionaire looks at this kid in a worn hoodie and thinks, You're just a teenager." But his wife is screaming, "The baby is coming now." And this 17-year-old from Detroit might be their only hope. What happens next will blow your mind. Welcome to Stories with Mr. Gray. If you love uncovering the truth and standing up for justice, hit subscribe, like and drop the flag of your country in the comments below. It started with a dream and a medical textbook. Damon Williams, just 17 years old, was cramped in the cheap seats at the back of the plane. This young man from Detroit had worked 2 years washing dishes, bagging groceries, cutting lawns, just to save enough money for this one trip to London. His sister Maya was there, studying to become a doctor. She was the first person in their family to ever leave America. While everyone else watched movies, Damon was reading an old medical book about delivering babies. He'd read it over and over again. You see, this teenager had a dream that would surprise everyone. But it wasn't just a dream. It was an obsession. When Damon was 12, his little brother Tony died. The boy needed heart surgery, but their family couldn't pay for it. Damon watched his brother die because they didn't have enough money. That day changed everything. At the front of the plane, in first class, sat Richard Blackstone. This man was worth $2.3 billion. He owned companies, buildings, everything you could imagine. Next to him, his wife Victoria glowed with that unmistakable pregnancy radiance. 8 months along with their miracle baby, their first child after years of heartbreak and fertility struggles. "She's kicking again," Victoria laughed, placing Richard's hand on her belly. "I think she knows we're going to London." Richard smiled, but his eyes held worry. He'd lost his first wife to cancer 5 years ago. Victoria and this baby were his second chance at happiness, and he protected them like precious diamonds. 3 hours later, they were over the Atlantic. Most passengers were sleeping or lost in entertainment. The ocean below was dark and endless. No airports, no hospitals, no help for thousands of miles. Damon was deep in chapter 12 when it happened. "Richard, something's wrong." Victoria's scream cut through first class like a knife. She was doubled over, clutching her stomach, face white as the cabin walls. Richard's billion-dollar empire meant nothing now. He was just a terrified husband. "What's happening?" "Victoria, talk to me. I need help." Richard's voice boomed. "My wife, she's pregnant. Something's wrong." Lead flight attendant Sarah Morrison rushed over. 5 years of flying, but medical emergencies at cruising altitude were every crew member's nightmare. Victoria could barely speak through the pain. "Contractions? But it's too early. I'm only 32 weeks. Urgent PA system crackling louder. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a medical emergency. If there are any doctors, nurses, or medical professionals on board, please identify yourselves immediately." Silence. 300 passengers. No doctors.
No nurses.
Nothing. Richard's face went ghost white. "Turn this plane around. Land somewhere. Sir, we're 4 hours from any airport. Even Iceland is 2 hours away." Victoria screamed as another contraction hit harder. This wasn't false labor. This baby was coming now, whether anyone was ready or not. Then they heard an urgent footsteps from back of plane. That's when Damon heard it. Not just screams, but the pattern, the timing, the intensity. He'd studied this exact scenario hundreds of times. Without thinking, he unbuckled and headed toward first class. "Excuse me, you can't be up here." A flight attendant blocked him. "I heard the announcement. I can help." She looked at this black teenager in a worn Detroit Tigers hoodie and made an instant assumption. "Son, this is serious. We need real medical professionals." "I am medical," Damon said firmly. I've studied emergency childbirth for 3 years. I know what's happening to her. Richard looked up from Victoria's side. You? You're just a kid. Another scream. Another contraction. The baby was coming in minutes, not hours. Sir? Damon looked Richard dead in the eyes. Your wife is in premature labor. Based on her contractions, you have maybe 15 minutes before this baby arrives. I can help her, or you can wait for a doctor to magically appear at 37,000 feet. The plane went silent except for Victoria's labored breathing. Please, Damon's voice cracked slightly. Let me save your family. Richard Blackstone faced the most important decision of his life. Trust his wife and unborn child to a teenager from Detroit, or watch them die. What do you need? Richard whispered. Damon's training kicked in. Not medical school, he'd never been to medical school. But knowledge earned through obsession, through loss, through a dream bigger than his circumstances. Clean towels, hot water, space to work. And everyone needs to stay calm. What happened next defied belief. This 17-year-old kid who'd never delivered a baby became the voice of authority in a flying metal tube. Madam, look at me. What's your full name? Victoria. Victoria Blackstone. Beautiful name, Victoria. I'm Damon, and I'm going to help you and your baby. But I need you to breathe with me. Okay? Deep breaths. For 18 minutes, Damon guided Victoria through the fight of her life. He monitored contractions, positioned her correctly, kept both parents calm with a maturity that seemed impossible for someone his age. Richard, support her head. Perfect. Victoria, you're incredible. I can see the baby's head. The entire first-class cabin held its breath. One more push, Victoria. Your daughter wants to meet you. At 37,000 feet, somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, baby Emma Blackstone entered the world in the steady hands of a teenager with a dream. She's perfect, Damon whispered, carefully cleaning the tiny infant. She's absolutely perfect. The cabin erupted. Passengers crying, flight attendants cheering, and Richard Blackstone, the man who controlled corporate empires, sobbing like a child. You saved them, Richard managed through tears. You saved my whole world. But Damon wasn't done. He monitored mother and baby, ensuring stability for the remaining flight. The premature infant was breathing well, her color good. As adrenaline faded, Richard really looked at this remarkable young man for the first time. What's your name, son? Damon Williams, sir. Damon, what's your story? Where are you going? What were you doing in coach? And Damon told them everything. About Maya in medical school. About Tony dying because they couldn't afford surgery. About 3 jobs and 2 years of saving. About his dream of becoming a pediatric surgeon. With every word, Richard's worldview shifted. This wasn't just a lucky teenager. This was a future doctor who'd been denied every opportunity, except the one that mattered most. As Flight 447 descended toward London, Richard Blackstone made a decision that would change everything. Damon, you saved my family. Ask me for anything. Money, a house, a job, name it. Damon looked at baby Emma, sleeping peacefully, and his eyes filled with tears. Mr. Blackstone, I don't want your money. Richard was stunned. Then what? What do you want? Damon took a shaky breath. I want you to help me become the doctor I know I can be. Not just pay for school, really help me. I want to learn from the best. I want to save babies like Emma. You want me to invest in your education? No, sir. I want you to invest in the lives I can save, in families I can keep together. But Damon wasn't finished. What he said next shattered Richard's heart and rebuilt it stronger. And Mr. Blackstone? When I become a doctor, I want to make sure kids like me, kids whose families can't afford surgery, never have to watch their little brothers die because of money. Richard completely broke down. This teenager had saved his family and was asking for the chance to save countless others. You want to start a foundation? I want to make sure what happened to Tony never happens again. I want to be the doctor who saves them and the reason they can afford to be saved." Richard looked at his wife, his newborn daughter, this extraordinary young man who'd given them everything and asked for nothing but the opportunity to give back. "Damon," Richard's voice cracked, "how would you feel about being Emma's godfather?" The question hung in the air like a bridge between worlds. "And how would you feel about a full scholarship to any medical school in the world, plus funding for the Tony Williams Foundation for Pediatric Surgery?" Damon couldn't speak. He just held baby Emma and cried. Today, Dr. Damon Williams is in his 3rd year at Harvard Medical School, fully sponsored by the Blackstone Foundation. Baby Emma is a healthy, brilliant 2 years old who lights up every time she sees her godfather. The Tony Williams Foundation has funded 23 life-saving surgeries for children whose families couldn't afford them. But the real miracle isn't the foundation or the scholarship. It's what happens when we see people for who they truly are, not what we assume them to be. Richard Blackstone learned that heroism doesn't wear expensive suits. And Damon Williams proved that sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. The next time you're on a plane, look around. That person in the cheap seat might be the one who will save your life. Because at 37,000 feet, we're all just human beings hoping to land safely. And sometimes, an angel sits in coach. If the story moved you, share it. Every Damon Williams deserves their shot at changing the world. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.